Casey.
Shane, your hot cocoa.
Oh, my hot cocoa. Thank you. Thank you. It's hot cocoa season if you're listening to this in the future. Otherwise, Merry Christmas. Christmas time. Christmas time.
Christmas time. Happy holidays.
New Year's on this one? When does this come out?
This will come out Friday. New Year's is on Sunday.
I've been lost in the warp. So this one comes out tomorrow?
29th.
As we record this, it is
28th.
Indeed. The friendly local game store was closed today. We went by and it was closed because they're closed for the holidays. And I thought that they were closed till the 28th, meaning that they would open on the 28th, but that was incorrect. And so I was a dummy head. Also, why did they make the road to your house only wide enough for 2 bicycles?
Dude, I'm telling you, my neighbor goes full beans on Christmas, and his yard, his lights, and everything, and he does a thing out there where he puts a sign for charity, raise money for charity, scan this, take a photo. And, when people pull over to look at the lights, they actually cause a traffic jam.
I almost wrecked into your wife on the way in. That would have been bad form.
Oh, yeah? How's she doing?
Well, I didn't hit her, so there was no conversation. Good. She got onto the highway, I assume. Open up the bits box. I've gotten somebody into 40K.
Who that be?
Well, I moved in the new hotness, Miss Valerie Prince. She's been listening to the pod, and
she's definitely new hotness. Shout out to her.
And she's seen the whole 40K thing. She's seen my little plastic mins, and she's decided that she wants a Slaneshi demon army.
Interesting.
So those are things we've been looking up.
Demons, you say?
Demons. We're going to go try to track down her first couple of boxes of demonettes. Because it seems with the Slanesh demons, all of the characters that can lead anything lead demonettes. So she's going to have a whole collection of demonettes, I assume. You had some questions about this as I had mentioned it to you ahead of time, asking, who's going to paint this stuff. And, and I said to her, this is a good question.
You're going to have her dip the toe, just do one unit, see how it goes? Or are you going to throw her full face, John Wayne style, into our world of Warhammer?
So first of all, I did not encourage this or in any way initiate this. She just has been watching me paint stuff and has been like, I want to do that. So the idea is that I'm going to kind of paint.
I'm astounded.
Yeah. I'm going to kind of paint and make test models, that kind of thing. And then that way she sort of has a blueprint to paint her own. That's the plan. Also, I think Slanesh demons are going to work really well for all the airbrushing and whatnot that I've been doing that I'm also going to talk about in today's pod. So there's a couple of
today's pod, but we're still in the bits box.
Yeah, well, we'll get to that in the main topic. But for more of my bits box, I also got the entire Star Wars Shatterpoint core box, 50% off at the Friendly Little Game Store. So I got that.
Go check out Shane's droids that he painted. They're up on the socials.
Yeah, so we're talking about terrain today. Spoiler alert. That is, in fact, the main topic. We're going to talk about different ways to do it and whatnot. And the terrain I did first. And I did it quick, and I did it mean. And it looks good. And
it really looks good.
And then, of course, I'm doing the opposite on all the units and characters and whatnot, which, I mean, it's a skirmish game, so nearly everything in it is a character, is the way I see it.
Everything's a hero.
Right. Those, I'm doing the opposite. I'm really taking my time with them, and also, going pretty high levels of ball sack on them. Now, Shatterpoint is made by the same people that make Marvel Crisis Protocol, MCP, as the kids call it, which is another game I play. And if you guys have kept up with our painting episodes, I find those very lethargic as projects because you have one little guy and you know exactly how you want him to look from the beginning. You sort of pick a costume from the history of the superhero stuff and do it. And the Star Wars is very similar where, I know what my Ahsoka is going to look like before I start. And then it's just a matter of how clean and how crisp and how, do I want to put any kind of twist on it? Do I want to do any kind of affect, right? and I know it's effect. Delete your comment. And so I find those very relaxing. I built up 2 of the 501st, the Clone Troopers, and I'm going to do them in their classic blue.
Love the 501st.
And the reason I'm doing there's 2 of them, but they both individually go on a base each. And then I'll do Captain Rex once I really have my Clone Trooper painting dialed in.
You know, what's interesting that you say that? I actually started watching Ahsoka this week with my wife. We're almost to the end, and it's pretty good.
It's fine.
Yeah, it's. I wouldn't give it a 10 out of 10, but I'll give it an 8.
A lot 9. I felt like it started as 10 out of 10. The first 3 were really 10 out of 10. When she goes yeeting out that window after the assassin or whatever, I came out of my chair. And then the last couple episodes, it kind of does what all the Disney shows have done, which is just limp to the finish line under the burden of the rest of the projects that they have planned.
Yeah, but I will say the acting, what drew me in the first episode was the acting of the enemy Jedi. I think his name's Bracken. Really cool guy, and I was like, oh,
Balin.
Man. Yes, Balin. And I looked at my wife, and I was like, this guy's awesome. He's everything I want in, like, a Jedi or a fallen Jedi. This guy needs to be in, like, everything from now on. And she says, you know, the actor's dead.
Rest in power.
And it broke my heart.
Yeah, no, it was a very sad thing that happened to everybody with that one, because he was absolutely excellent in the role and really elevated the rest of the show. They have got to recast that, surely. I will be offended if they AI generate a face, and puppeteer this deceased person.
I think I'd be okay if they just killed him off screen or something and did it like that. I'd be okay with that.
Okay, we're far afield from the bits. Hold on. No. I got to go one step further.
Okay.
But I'm just acknowledging that we are far afield of the bits box for this moment. However,
got to hit up that airtime, man.
How long in 40K lore has Robuta Gilliman existed?
Gosh, let's see. It would be...
Or no, a better question. Not how long has he existed in the lore. How long has he existed in real life?
Like, how old is he?
No. Like what year did Gilliman happen as a Primarch in the like hobby toy Games Workshop thing? Do you know off top?
Ooh, that's a...
Because I'm pulling his name out of the air just because he's well known, but I imagine it's quite a while, right?
Yes, actually, originally the Primarchs and Horus weren't even Primarchs. They were just like generals. They were normal guys.
Okay, so that would be in the 80s.
Yes, like 1988, 89.
Okay, so let's say that this thing, instead of being a hobby product, had been a movie or a TV thing.
Yeah. Henry Cavill.
What Star Wars has got going on right now is they're acting as though whoever played the character the first time has to play the character, period.
Yes.
Well, that would be highly impractical for whatever old codger would have been playing Robuta Gilliman here in the 2000s had started in the 80s.
That's fair.
Because the character of Gilliman is a fairly, young man, in air quotes for Space Marine Primarch-ness. That wouldn't make any damn sense, is what I'm trying to say.
No, yeah, you have a point. I just don't agree with it.
What I'm saying is, look, I'm not saying recast Han Solo. They tried that. It was a disaster.
They did?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, you're right.
I'm not saying recast, I don't know who, Princess Leia. I'm not saying that, even though they've done that. Kid Leia is not Carrie Fisher, right?
Yeah.
Carrie Fisher, also rest in power, salute to you. They can recast Balin. It'll be fine. He's a made-up character.
I still have 3 episodes, so we'll see.
The story has to be told. Spoiler alert, he does not die at the end of that thing.
Good. Well, I guess, yeah.
Right.
I can't believe it, though. He's such a good actor.
I know. It's very sad, but also the story has to be told some kind of way, and we can't just do this. Luke Skywalker having that, and it's gotten better and better, but that ever so slightly robot Uncanny Valley face.
Dude, I'm still reeling from Kevin Conroy dying. Mark Hamill goes, and I'm out of here.
I know. I'm just saying. Mark Hamill's not even playing Luke Skywalker. They've got a...
Yeah, they killed him off.
Well, yeah, but when they go back to young Luke...
Oh, yeah, that was cool.
Yeah, it's cool, except it's not him.
True. All right,
we're so far afield. Let's get back. Let's get back.
Bring it
back to the Bits box. Cypher came in from the friendly local game store. I'm going to build Cypher soon and paint him. That's going to be an exciting one. I also have to find a Dark Angels player to play first game with Cypher in the army.
There's a guy in the community who plays Dark Angels. You might have a hard time, but let's see.
What is in your Bits box?
My Bits box. Been pretty active on the socials, getting our stuff out there. You noticed that today. I noticed it yesterday.
40K Fanatics has been having a moment on YouTube.
My face is just plastered everywhere, and I feel awful about it. Shane's like in the background usually. I think the Necrons one was him forefront, and that was the last one. But other than that, we're going to be seeing a lot more stuff for Shane's up more front. So apologies for that.
Hold on. You're talking about my face and thumbnails. Like, I don't care anything about that.
Representation's important, sir.
I talked for 35 uninterrupted minutes in the Rogue Trader review.
Yes, and people loved it.
Also,
you guys loved it. I
have an amendment to make to my Rogue Trader review.
Really?
I've continued to play it, as I said I would.
How many hours now?
I don't know. 20-something.
Okay. How many skulls?
I'm moving it from 6 to 7 out of 10.
Ah, okay. That's good. Why? What sold you on it a bit more?
It gets better.
Just talking like a suicidal teen.
It takes 15 hours to get better, which I think is poor, but it does get better.
Good.
Once the thing opens up, it gets much more, reason to be there type stuff, and it's still a book to read constantly, and it just goes on and on and on. And these guys, they prattle, and sometimes I'll accidentally ask a question about somebody, and I'm just wish I hadn't, and I don't even bother reading that dialogue. It's so much reading. But it gets better.
There you go.
7 out of 10, Rogue Trader Review Amendment. Put it in the description so that maybe people will find this one that way, as well as we cross-pollinate between all of the various Warhammer and general miniature hobby topics. Back to your Bits box.
I also painted a Blood Raven Space Marine as my last Space Marine of 2023. He is up on the socials. He's up on the YouTube. Anybody wants to go take a look at that. For those of you who don't know, Blood Ravens are the chapter of Space Marine specific to the Dawn of War video game series that came out in the early 2000s for Warhammer 40K. Now I hear that the third game is garbage and the first two are great. So take it for what you want. Other than that, I've been pretty active painting. I'm finishing up 20 cultists, and hopefully I can finish them up before my birthday on New Year's Eve.
What are you doing with them?
I'm using them for my Alpha Legion army. That's the plan.
Oh, right.
Yeah, I got an Alpha Legion army. Only 1,000 points because apparently Chaos right now is dirt cheap. But we'll see.
Not if you've got Abby Dabby done.
Shut up. Anyway, we played a game this past weekend. And
you and I played a game.
Yes.
I forgot about our game.
And I apologize
feels like a long time.
for my reaction during the game.
You got sad.
Yes, I got very sad because the RNG was definitely not on my side. And I behaved less than stellar. But I was angry at myself for acting less than stellar, so I tried to overcompensate and act like overjoyed. I was getting kind of crazy and wild out there, right near the end.
No, I disagree. So
really?
I'm surprised to hear you say this because
I'm very critical of myself.
Sure. Well, I thought that you took it well because you got your head absolutely stomped. It started off fine.
Bad.
I tricked you into doing the wah in turn one because and here's the thing. A little secret if any of you guys get to play Casey. He loves to wah in turn 1 because he thinks that he'll be able to get to you and whatnot. All you have to do is deploy close to your board edge. So that's what I did.
Yeah, and I've since learned to start with shooting armies to hold off on that. Maybe if you're playing the long game, like I've started to do later. However, I saw that Forge Fiend of yours, and I was like, I might need that 5-up, and I don't know how a Defiler plays. Also, Shane finally used his Defiler against me, and it was awesome. I mean, it didn't perform very well, but it was awesome.
I mean, it was alive at the end, standing on your home objective.
Fair.
It performed pretty well.
Yeah, your rolls weren't great with him.
Everything I did was absolutely cooking.
Yeah.
All of my units were cooking.
6s, 6s, 5s, 5s, 6s.
I didn't really lose a unit. Well, Harkin and the Raptors died.
Your Harkin and Terminators, yeah.
The Terminators died, but, I mean, we're talking like final turn stuff,
Venom
guys.
Crawler.
It was vicious.
Yeah.
It was a prodigious beating. But, again, I thought you took it well.
Well, I'm glad you think that.
I
was worried you might be upset.
No, losing with some dignity is important because I've had my head kicked in before.
We've mentioned it a lot on this channel.
And you just gotta make the most out of playing with and looking at your toys. The homie came in. There was a guy. He came in and watched for a little bit. Said he was getting back into the hobby, and I
recommended orcs.
I felt proud of both of us because we had fully painted armies out there running the thing.
Full represent.
Looking real good.
Super spicy.
That kind of thing makes it feel different, you know? But
you take a better pride in your army when people see that, you know.
Yeah, and I mean even when you were steadily picking up stuff, I imagine you were picking up your war bikers and thinking that's a well-painted war biker.
But that's my bits box. Let's close that.
I'm trying to think if I have anything else. Oh,
okay. You got anything?
One more thing. Me and Valerie played Kill Team.
Mr. Columbo.
And one more thing. I introduced her to Kill Team. She was interested in that. I let her play the Chaos Legionary Kill Team. So she only had six models to worry about. And I played the Aldari Corsair Kill Team. So basically we played the Nachman box on the Nachman terrain.
How'd that go?
Well, we did not play secondary objectives because those are a whole level of difficulty to add on to someone who's never played a miniature game, full stop. And so we omitted those, played a mission out of the core rule book, and she absolutely kicked my head in.
Yeah.
Because Space Marines are tough and Aldari are squishy, and I needed some secondaries to not be in a direct fight because though I made some good moves to make the direct fight work, it wasn't going. She killed everybody home.
You hate to see it. Man introduces woman to 40K.
Got
gets tabled.
I mean, I say that I didn't actually get tabled. It ended up being a 6 to 6 point draw. And I had a guy left.
So one more turn, you would have been toast.
Toast. And that's hardly a victory.
Beans, yo.
Beans, yo. Close the bits box. Today in our main topic, I wanted to talk about terrain because I've gone out and done some stuff. I've done 2 sets of terrain, myself and with help.
And I have often painted terrain for our friendly local game store, pro bono, or sometimes for store credit.
Yeah, now, in my mind, there are 2 types of terrain painting. There is quick and sloppy.
Totally.
And there is long and difficult. You're a long and difficult, I know.
I've always been long and difficult.
Man.
Just ask my wife. Hey-o.
Hey, my wife.
We just sat back all men like 20 years.
Yes. The patriarchy is strong.
Oh, gosh.
Despite all.
That was a married with children joke.
So.
But yeah, what you were saying.
So, I want to talk about the things I've learned in painting some terrain. And I mean, I'm talking about whole boxes of it. And the way I've done it recently the differences, and then I want to see how you go about it yourself. So first of all, let's talk about, I think one of these is better than the other. I think the long and difficult is just difficult. The result does not necessarily end up better. Okay? Now, we are going to leave out custom-made terrain. This is like terrain that you get with your boxes of models and things, right? So this is like your official GW terrain. This is stuff that comes on sprues. Because once we get into cutting stuff out of foam and making boards and things, that is beyond my capability as it currently stands. Like once you start making rocks out of styrofoam, that's a whole other thing that I don't know how to do. But on this Shatterpoint terrain for Star Wars Shatterpoint,
was it on sprue or did you have to assemble it?
Oh yeah, no, it's all sprues. You got to cut it out. You got to assemble it. It's a whole bunch of pieces. It's just sprue after sprue. It's a bunch of stuff. And there's a video of it on our @40K Fanatics on X that you can see what it looks like all finished. And so what I did with it is I picked out a scheme, which is I wanted it to look like the slum city of Nar Shaddaa that I know from Jedi Outcast, or what is it? Jedi Knight, Jedi Outcast. The one with Kyle Katarn, the video game from circa 2002, I believe.
Is that KOTOR?
Kyle Katarn?
No, is that Knights of the Old Republic?
No. This is called Jedi Knight 3 Jedi Outcast.
Oh, then I've never even heard of it.
Well, it's the sequel to Dark Forces 1 and 2. Have you heard of Jedi Knight Dark Forces?
Nope.
Okay, these were on the Quake engine. That's how old these are.
Whoa. Oh.
Yeah, and the third one I believe was made in Quake 3 engine. So it looks good for
what it is.
For late 90s essentially technology. But you go to Nar Shaddaa and there's a cantina scene and a whole thing and it's awesome, but it's all like blue and neon. It's very Blade Runner-y, okay?
Okay.
So, I decided I would do black and purple. And my idea, and this is going to be point one of this whole thing for you guys if you're following along at home. Pick one or two processes for your terrain painting that you think you can pull off and do those. So, a lot of what people have been doing on this Shatterpoint terrain is they've been making it Mos Eisley,
Tatooine,
tan,
Adobe
brown,
buildings.
Adobe buildings, right? I didn't want to do that because everybody's looks like that. It looks like that on the box. Everybody's looks like that. And what people do with that?
Breaking the mold.
What people do with that is they prime it white or something, and then they get like their streaking grime, and they do maybe an oil wash and a wipe, that kind of thing, to get it all looking lived in like Star Wars looks lived in. I didn't want to do that. So I came up with the idea, and I've been wanting to try it. I still have your airbrush compressor, and it's working a treat with my little Iwata Neo airbrush. So I go to the Hobby Lobby, and I find the inks.
Yeah, you said you decided to paint with a little bit of inks this time.
Yeah, so I found their selection of inks, which was very limited, but I found a blue. They had an ultramarine blue, and I thought, that's close enough. Primed the whole thing's black. Rattle can. Done. Bought also at the Hobby Lobby a really big brush to dry brush stuff.
There you go.
Took some white. Also bought some cheap white. On terrain, don't burn all your good paints, guys. It takes too much.
Definitely.
Get you some apple barrel paints with the boots, with the fur, because the whole club is in fact not looking at your terrain, which is another point down the road that we're going to talk about. But back to point one, where you're picking a couple of your initial, let's call them stratagems, right? Your processes, your systems. So I got the blue ink. All I did was dry brush around the top with white. And then, so that's black with some white, and it's all scratchy
Slap
looking.
chop.
Yeah, a little slap chop action. But remember, this is going on flat surfaces.
Yeah. So it looks more like scuffs.
Well, no, it just looked like a bunch of. It looked like somebody had just thrown white paint all over the top and things. Yeah, but it had a little fades down. Then I took the airbrush and sprayed that ink over the white. What I found, because inks are highly transparent, and I knew that from my various YouTube studies, the ink that's sprayed on the black is invisible. You can't see it. It just looks black. The ink that's sprayed on the white, as blue as I wanted to make it. If I wanted it more blue, I'd just spray it again.
Brought out the shadows, right?
No. It made a gradient from black to blue. So it looks like there's something going on, that it's not just a black wall. Somewhere there's some blue coming from somewhere. Here's the other thing. This is where we get to how good does your terrain need to look. Obviously, if your terrain is like painted to some level of Golden Demon type quality, that's probably better. It holds up to close-up scrutiny. Looks amazing in close photos. But I want to know when the last time was anybody took a photo of some terrain with no model anywhere in the shot. The other day when we were playing, we used a bunch of unpainted, non-textured MDF terrain.
And you loved it.
It really bothers me, that brown stuff. It's just tan. It looks like wood. It worked fine. It functions, right? But it bothers me because we've got all this thousands of dollars of pretty models and hundreds or possibly thousands of hours of time invested in making our little dudes look pretty. And then they're standing there on a tan plank. That doesn't make any sense. But still, we took pictures. They looked good because we're not paying any attention to the terrain. Therefore, the fact that the blue that blends into this black is coming from who knows where doesn't matter. It has a color. It's not just a black void, and it kind of gives off this we're doing a dark spacey vibe. Then I took my smaller dry brush and some metallics, some copper, and I did some trim around the tops of the buildings and other strategic places. Running and gunning is what I would call this strategy, right? I'm just picking up a piece, I'm spinning it around, and bop, 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 bop. Then up on top, where all the game will take place, I dry brushed all over that, because remember, it's still black on top. I dry brushed all over that with copper, and then in the middle section of all these walkways and footpaths and things, I took silver and dry brushed over that so it looks worn where the high traffic areas are. Then I took my white primer, and there's all these lights on the side. And I bought myself some fluo colors, the fluorescents, right? Did me some little light effects. So that's the second strategy, right?
You're getting me hyped right now.
That's the second little technique that goes into this thing. 'Cause I only picked two. I thought I can probably do two techniques on every little piece of this without taking a ton of time, and then you're going to have something to look at. So in all these lights, they look like they're glowing pretty colors. I've got pink lights and orange lights and yellow lights and green lights, right? And then if I want to do more, I could go back with a brush. Or I could go get me some stencils, or I could print out some decals of wanted posters of various Star Wars bounty hunters and decoupage them onto the side of the walls. Or I could just play with it as it sits. Now, the last time I did terrain, we went the other way.
And what way was that?
That was, we painted a lot of it silver with a brush. That took a long time. We put washes on it. That was hard to keep from pooling in places. Then we got the metallics and started doing trim and bolt heads and wires and tubing down the entire length of pipes and up walls and down crevices. And man, you get tired fast. It was me and another person working on this.
Jeez.
It took forever. And you know what? I think the Shatterpoint terrain looks better. The Shatterpoint terrain doesn't hold up to very close scrutiny like the metallic trim of the other does. But I go back to the point that I mentioned before, which is the now point. Nobody's looking that close. Tell me what you do when you take a piece of terrain, because you're on the you go even harder.
So, I have a couple methods, and you're right. You go quick and dirty, or you can go or you can go slow and special. I prefer, depending on what I'm doing. If it's something I love, like an piece of orc terrain, I go a little bit harder on it. But for general purposes, I'll describe my way of doing it, my general way of doing it. So, primer is going to be your biggest choice you're going to make in the process, because that's what you start off with. That's probably going to be coming out. It might even be whatever color you decide to end on. I do orc terrain. A lot of scrap, a lot of metal. Lead belcher, metallic paint. Done.
Yeah.
And then you just fill in like a coloring book, all the other spots. And then have a big fat brush for your washes and some torn up sponges so you can spackle on some nice little effects on there.
Okay, so there's two things right there that I want to latch on to in your method. So, first of all, the big brushes are huge. It does not make any sense to paint terrain with your tiny little brushes.
Yep.
Go get you some cheap brushes, too, because you're going to get these things so goopy.
Mm-hmm.
Once you really start slapping it on, like let's say, because the orc stuff tends to be a lot of layered up bunch of junk, right? Yeah. So you've got it all silver, and then you want like a red piece of corrugated aluminum, right? If you get your big old brush, load that thing with red and just gob it on. And if you paint outside the lines, it won't be the end of the world, because then you're coming back with a wash on everything. And you're doing that with a big brush so that it doesn't pool, so that it doesn't dry too fast, so that you don't get streaking layers and nonsense.
And a sponge can be your best friend when it comes to terrain.
And number two, the sponge. So you're doing a lot of like weathering nicks with that, right?
Yeah, using it to make not just weathering nicks, but like what would you call it on like when you look at something that is like a painted wall, and then you see some of the paint is still bright and vibrant, but it's specks of it, some isn't. Or you could say a piece of rusted metal, like you were. You do a darker tone and on the metal, and then a lighter tone with the same sponge, and then you end up, oh wow, that looks really good.
Yeah, and the sponging is what people do on like their that's what people do for their knight armor.
Yeah, so then you don't even have to do dry brushing necessarily. You just take a sponge.
Right, because you can build up that speckling that you get with the sponges, the different colors, and you can get much more interesting depth of color than just flat whatever color. Which is what. Here's a little secret, guys. Most of the time, what we're trying to avoid on large surfaces is that green screen effect, where it's just a flat color. Whether it be metallic, whether it be red, blue, black, white, whatever.
You don't want to look like a kindergartner's birdhouse. Exactly,
because it's an issue of scale, right? You never look at the side of a part. You ever see like the side of a bank? Maybe they
all the time,
where they have no windows on that one side because there used to be another building.
I take time out of my day to look at banks.
I'm talking about like old school downtown areas where not all the buildings are still there.
Yes, the
right?
brick and the mortar stuff.
Yeah, so you get like an old bank with no windows on one side because there used to be a building like directly up against it. And that wall can be huge, it can be stuccoed, whatever, but it's going to have some texture to it that you can see not just right when you get up on it. And that's what we're trying to recreate on a lot of this terrain or on our Titanic nights, because those big flat surfaces at scale don't make any sense.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to be using a lot of those on my Stompa. A lot of those techniques on my Stompa when I get the chance this new year.
Yeah, that thing is that is painting a terrain piece. That thing, like
might as well be.
Yeah, you go at it with the same energy that you do a terrain piece.
Quick and dirty.
Quick and dirty for all the parts that can be quick and dirty. Because here's the thing, you can always go back and spend your time on the parts that people may care about. right? Like the Stompa's got a face. You're going to spend some time on the face. You're going to spend some time on the big choppy weapon. You might spend some time on the smokestacks. I'm looking at the Stompa right now. What you're not going to be too worried about is spending 45 minutes on his big butt panel.
Yeah. And another thing, people who use airbrushes, you don't have to use airbrushes. You can use dry brush. You could use sponges. I find that using sponges replicates airbrush to an insane degree. All you need is maybe some tape or cut out a piece of paper, stick it on there, sponge different layers of color, and there you go.
Yeah. Dab, 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 dab.
Dab it in the club.
For those of you not watching on YouTube, or watching on YouTube, because there's no video component to this, Casey just did a dab, as though it was 2015. What else do I have on this terrain tip? It isn't a huge topic, but it is one that I don't think gets enough attention. What is that? Is that a piece of... Casey's handing me a piece of terrain, and it is to a fishbowl.
It is aquarium terrain.
Okay, let me tell you.
It's a castle.
You didn't paint this, right?
No, that is just something my wife got at a Dollar Tree or Dollar General, and then she brought it home and was like, hey, do you want this?
All right, so this is an interesting thing that you've brought up here just on the spot. Somebody in probably China or Taiwan has to paint hundreds of these a day. And it's got a lot going on. This thing, first of all, it's got a lot of texture, which a lot of our miniature terrain does have. But this is clearly sprayed gray, dipped wholesale into some sort of oily wash to fill in all the cracks, and then there is a big, heavy white dry brushing over the entire thing. Oh, and at some point, the bushes and the trees and the grass are painted green. And then they go through and sloppily dab on red roses. You should post a picture of this on X before tomorrow when this comes out so that people can see. But that is my analysis of that. And I bet you it takes, 45 seconds for them to dry brush the white onto that after the wash is dried, which is probably another, somebody else's job.
Boy, it makes my photos look good, and I know that.
Right. But that's what I'm saying. Someone did that in less than a minute. There are only two processes involved in making that happen, which is the dip. Like, someone with a glove is going dip, and they pull it out, and then all the crevices are full.
Base oil dry brush.
Done. Fast. Looks good.
And I don't know where you picked up a lot of your skills, but I got most of mine from Midwinter Minis. Guy is colorblind, and he is a phenomenal painter and puts me to shame. He does a lot of stuff where it's like, let's do this quick and easy. Let's do some terrain. Let's do stuff like this. Let's take some of our old sprues and make it into something cool. Let's print off stuff. And he really makes the paint jobs look great.
The guy I like is Eons of Battle. And they have a Patreon tier, I think, or maybe any Patreon tier. You can get access to their 3D printable terrain, or you can even buy it off of a place. Go check out Eons of Battle on YouTube, though, because every month they do a terrain pack, and then he does a video where he paints said terrain pack. And he's painting a ton of terrain all at once. Sometimes he makes a board. And, you want to talk about fast/good. Because obviously there's an inverse relationship to speed and quality. We all know that. As speed goes up, quality must go down. To have both, you need more people. And possibly a little bit of cruelty, like I'm sure is going on in whatever Chinese sweatshop made that aquarium castle.
Yeah.
You could get it done real fast to a pretty high standard that way too. Ask Amazon. But that's not what we're doing as hobbyists. We don't have teams. We don't have that many systems.
The systems.
Also, having now had a fully functioning airbrush that just sprays whatever paint you put in for the better part of a month that it's really been running solid, I cannot stress to you enough how worth the investment it is. Everyone within the sound of my voice, whether you know how to use one, whether you've used one, just get it.
Airbrush elitist over here.
There's so much crap.
I'm going to put it on a t-shirt.
There's so much crap that you don't need to think about. Do you know how hard it is to zenithal a model with a rattle can? And have everything, and not have just a cutout shadow of the guy's gun because it's in front of his torso?
That's a great idea for t-shirt.
That would be funny.
Airbrush elitist and the paintbrush purist.
I mean, look, I paintbrush everything. You posted my Wednesday whip just this week of these of the battle droids I did out of Shatterpoint. Roger. They were airbrush primed, airbrush zenithalled, and then they were brush base coated, brush washed, brush highlight. Them boys look good. They look like they're ready to die in mass under the sword or blaster of the Republic.
Is that, you got anything else for us?
I think we've done it.
All right, you want to do the outro?
In January, we have a lot of big stuff coming.
Yeah, look forward to it. A couple giveaways, some competitions in the future. We're making a lot of things happen.
We're going to pick out our what we each believe is our 3 best models that we did this year.
Yep.
And then we're going to judge one another.
Yep, and then we're going to post it for our New Year's photo, like a year in recap.
Let's see if we get in a fight about it.
I mean, I'll fight you.
Always judge your friends. Be very judgy of your friends. Your friends are...
I'll call the Wah turn 1.
Yeah, and I will encourage it heartily. I've been Shane.
And I'm Casey.
And we'll see you next time on 40K Fanatics.
Peace.